As the world celebrates Lionel Messi and fits the man for finally accomplishing the one thing that had evaded him throughout his career, Barcelona fans took a rather different route and chose instead to vandalize a mural of his that was there in the city. But why exactly did they choose to do that? I mean, granted, Messi has left the club, it's been about a year now at this point, but he is still very much their prodigal son. He was their youth academy product, and for many, Messi was Barcelona. He epitomized the way they played, he epitomized the joy, the exuberance that the club wanted to bring to their fans. Well, the answer to that question, strangely enough, lies with the one thing that has always been plaguing Barcelona in recent times, their financial situation. How exactly is that the case is, I'm sure, what you'd be wondering, and that's exactly what I intend talking to you about in this particular video. So we're going to talk about two major things. Why have Barcelona fans been mad at Leo Messi? How does it tie in to their financial situation? And just how bad really is their financial situation? So I changed my mind. It's not going to be two things, it'll be three things. And the answer to that third question is really bad. How bad? We'll get to that in just a bit, but first let's talk about the instance which we were first talking about. That is, of course, the Messi mural being vandalized. Now see, Messi, everyone knew, had been fairly okay-ish at best at Paris Saint-Germain, his new home, after he was forced to leave Barcelona in the summer of 2021. Now, you'd also remember that Barcelona had managed to raise some money by activating financial levers, which basically entail them selling off their current assets or future assets for a quick buck or a quick injection of money into the club. Now, due to that money coming about, they were able to sign players, and there was even chatter that Messi could very well be re-signed by the club once his contract expired. Remember, he had only signed a 2-year deal with PSG. So that is why he had been linked with a return. But now rumors are coming that Messi has in fact chosen to extend his stay at PSG, and that is something that left Barcelona fans, well, let's just say left them less than happy, to say the least. And that is why they ended up taking to the streets and destroying a mural which had been made in Leo Messi's honor. Unfortunate thing, sure. Is it typical behavior that you would expect, the kind of tribalism that comes with being a football fan? Absolutely. But it does really beg one question. How exactly is it that Barcelona fans were thinking that they could afford Leo Messi? I mean, to be fair, a homecoming for Messi was absolutely never on the cards. And why is that the case? Because their financial crisis, which you remember is something that has dominated the headlines around Barcelona for about 2 to 3 years now, still very much remains an issue. I mean, don't forget, they got an injection of money by selling off part of their TV rights and part of other things to actually get in a short-term injection of cash into the club. With that money, they signed players and they had to assign money to player wages as well. So what happened thereafter is, despite the fact that they managed to get that cash injection, sign new players, and of course increase wages, what happened is that their wage bill, which was already operating in a red zone, is now much bigger than it was even in the summer. And what that means is that they need to be looking at ways to shed money. And to be fair, the fact that they managed to exit the Champions League this time around in just the group stages actually made things worse for them. How exactly it is, you'll ask? Well, with the simple fact that the financial estimations that Barcelona had submitted to La Liga included them making it to at least the last 8 or the quarterfinal rounds of the Champions League, and thus the money that they would get from making it to that stage. However, we all know that they didn't make it to the last stage. They got knocked out in the group stages. They're currently going to be playing the Europa League when European football resumes. And so because of that, their money situation, which was already bad, is now much worse, because the fact that they exited the UCL early means that there's about a 25 to 30 million euro hole which has to be filled in their budget. And where exactly are they going to be getting that money from? Well, there are a few things they can do, truth be told. I mean, the most obvious thing when you think about a football club generating money is that you sell some players. Simple as that. It's not that hard. It's something we've seen clubs do for eons throughout their generations. And selling a player in this case would doubtless help them, because it would bring in a cash injection and, more importantly, would reduce the burden on their wage bill. However, there is just one problem. A lot of these players who are at Barcelona right now are on very, very high wages, and they don't want to be moving unless a club can at the very least match those wages. And to make things worse, there are many players like a Frankie de Jong, a Piqué, a Sergio Busquets who have in fact taken payment deferrals. So not only have they cut their salary, they've also have deferred payments that are owed to them, which the club still has to pay, and don't quite have the money to do so as things stand. That means that a lot of these players aren't necessarily moving on. I mean, for Barca, it was good news when Piqué decided to retire, because it means they won't be paying him any more wages. Sergio Busquets will be leaving the club at the end of the year, at the end of the season, that is. They won't be paying him any wages after that point, but it's still not enough. And in fact, for Busquets, the benefit will only be felt in the next financial year, not this one. Also, there is another option, which is a very extreme option, which is, of course, selling some of the younger players. Now, truth be told, Barca have tried to avoid selling future assets, the likes of Alejandro Balde or Gavi or Pedri. They've tied them up to long-term contracts and put very, very big release clauses. They have tried moving players like Frankie de Jong, but as you remember, we covered multiple times during the summer transfer window, de Jong has held firm. They could, in theory, sell someone like a Gavi, a Pedri for, lesser money than what would be included in their release clause, but that would cause a long-term problem, because these are players who know the Barcelona way. They identify, or their identity is linked to Barcelona, because they are, of course, products of the youth academy. So what happens there is you not want to be flogging off more future assets, considering the fact that they've already done that with, of course, selling off, portions of the TV rights and other such things to get that short-term injection of cash. You of course now doubtless be asking, like, look, if they sold a percentage of their TV rights before, what's stopping them from doing it again? Well, as it turns out, the thing that's stopping them from doing it again is La Liga putting in a number of new rules when it comes to how teams can generate money. Specifically, the kind of levers that Barcelona put in place this time around, where they actually sold off their TV rights. They cannot be doing that anymore to plug the gap. In fact, they have been specifically told that even if you are allowed to do that, it won't be for things like paying for transfers or paying wages. It will be towards things like debt repayment or reinvesting back into the club. That doesn't include player transfers. In fact, La Liga have very clearly put about this rule because Barcelona actually sold off, their future assets, and they said that, look, you know what, you can't be doing that because it goes against the spirit of the rules. The whole point of La Liga's salary cap and all of the financial fair play restrictions that they put in place is to ensure that clubs are living within their means. Barcelona having to flog off the family silver, in essence, is not them living beyond their means. It's not them living within their means. It's them living well beyond their means and giving up long-term revenue for short-term gains. The kind of thing that will drive people to bankruptcy if it keeps happening over and over again. In fact, Barcelona's board have gone very much on public record and said that, look, La Liga, keep tightening the restrictions. It's not fair on us. It's a conspiracy against Barcelona. It isn't, quite frankly. That is, of course, big talk that is coming from the Barca hierarchy to ensure that the fans stay on their side. Because, quite frankly, as I asked in the second part of this, is it really unfair? Is it unfair that La Liga is asking Barca to live within their means and not spend more money than is necessary? Because even if you have to look at what Barcelona claim is a quote-unquote disaster season, they still finished second in La Liga. They came very close to winning trophies. So really, is it a necessity for La Liga that Barcelona be winning or competing for trophies every year? Or is it more important for Barcelona, the club, and the fans, that the club actually continues to exist? Because if they continue going down the same route, there's a very good chance that Barcelona could be on the brink of bankruptcy and potentially extinction. Can you imagine a world of Spanish football without Barcelona? Of course you can't. And La Liga doing this actually helps them, because it ensures that they're not finding new, weird ways to actually spend more money that they don't, quite frankly, have. So, to tie things into the original talking point which I started, them destroying the Messi mural made no sense, because quite frankly, a return for Messi was never on the cards. In fact, as things stand, due to the fact that their wage bill is inflated and they don't really have money coming in from other sources, they won't be able to sign any players. In fact, Jordi Cruyff, who is of course the public face, the director of football of Barcelona, said very clearly that, look, players are not free, miracles are possible, but only thoughts are free, which means that Barcelona are really going to struggle to strengthen a squad that at this point really does need a little bit of reinvestment, but it won't be possible unless they're able to sell some of their high earners or potentially maybe even a young player or two. Neither of those are great options, which is why Barcelona continue to find themselves in a mess. And it's the kind of mess that, unfortunately, even if they could somehow re-sign Leo Messi, it won't really be fixed. What Barcelona need is, of course, long-term planning and a way to get out of the debt that currently cripples them, whilst also remaining at least mildly competitive, even if that comes at a short-term loss of competing for trophies and being one of Europe's top sides. But that's just how I feel about it. What do you guys think? You can let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tap the bell icon so you know when we're going live or uploading a new video for you guys. Then you can also go ahead and follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and last but not least, don't forget to download the AajTak app. Thank you all once again for joining us for this video. As always, I've been Shane Dias. I hope to see you with us through the day on Sports Today as we bring you the latest from the world of sport. But for now, goodbye.